What is going on, Bucs fans and CFP fans? Evan Wanish here, back at you with another video talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And today we're going to be going over the outside linebackers, continuing our positional group reviews from the 2024-25 season. We've already started our defensive side of the ball with the interior defensive line. If you want to go out and check that out over on the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel, you can. Also, if you want to check out the entirety of the offensive side of the ball, that is now also available on Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel. But I'm eager to get into this one today, and I am not alone. Joining me is Mr. James Hill, aka Mr. Bucs Nation. James, how are you doing today?
This is going to be brutal. I'm just going to tell you guys off the cuff. I mean, let's just dive into it, and we can talk more about it. But
Well, there is plenty to talk about when it comes to the production in the season, and then I think even more, right, when talking about moving forward, what could or may happen here. But let's get right into the room. We're going to start off with Shaq Barrett. I bet you didn't think that was going to be a thing come in August, right? When we previewed this room, I don't think we expected it to be ending it with Shaq Barrett being on the team, but he is on the team. Also have Chris Braswell, YaYa Diaby, Anthony Nelson, Jose Ramirez, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, Marquise Watts, and Daniel Griziak. So a lot of names, right? There's a lot of notable names, I will say, right? And a lot of names that you do recognize: Shaq Barrett, YaYa Diaby, Chris Braswell, Anthony Nelson, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. You know what that tells me? It tells me that the Buccaneers have. It's not like they've ignored this position, right? I want to make that clear. They have not ignored it. Chris Braswell, second-round pick. YaYa Diaby, third-round pick. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, first-round pick. That's why you recognize these names, right? Obviously, Shaq Barrett, one of the best free agent signings in Bucs history. One of Jason Light's best free agent signings there, right? Helped them win a Super Bowl. Anthony Nelson, fourth-round pick. So these guys, they've invested legit resources, right, into this position. It just hasn't really worked out the way I think they'd want it to, right? Right now, with the amount of resources that they've invested, outside linebackers should not be, it should be viewed as a strength, right? When you invest a third-round pick, a second-round pick, a first-round pick, and a fourth-round pick in guys, all within the last 5 to 6 years, that should be viewed as a strength right now. And it just simply hasn't, because, look, the JTS pick is, it's below average. I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's probably below average. Anthony Nelson pick is good, but he's a rotational guy. The Braswell pick is a bit too early, and Diaby looks good, but how high is his ceiling? We don't really know. And look, Shaq Barrett isn't Shaq Barrett from 2020, right? It's not the same guy. So when you're relying on a lot of that, I think that's when you get the results that you do, that the Buccaneers received in 2024 when it came to their pass rush from the edges.
Yeah, I mean, just listen to this, right? So you did mention some names, right? And they have spent a lot of resources on this position group, okay? But YaYa Diaby led the way for outside linebackers in sacks this year with 4.5, okay? I mean, you had 12 sacks, I think, between YaYa, Anthony Nelson, JTS, and Braswell. 12 sacks, Evan. It's pretty bad.
That's from 4 players. That's an average of 3 sacks a dude.
That's bad. Okay, yeah. There's no other way to look at it. And that, by the way, is your former first, second, third, and fourth round picks. And they combined for 12 sacks. I mean, Evan, I would love to find the person who says, this group's good. We don't need to make any changes. Like, me and you are, like, I won't speak for you on this. I'm of the mindset of, bro, they've got a clean house. Like, no,
you're able to speak for me on that.
And I mean, like, you've got to change out 2 of those guys. I mean, it's probably got to be like JTS, because, like you said, he's not lived up to the moniker of a first-round draft pick. And Anthony Nelson, he's not bad, but to be completely honest, Evan, I think it's just time for a change.
He's not bad, but he's a replaceable player.
Yeah, like he's a third pass rusher, right? Probably. But like, it just feels like it's time for a change, especially whenever you invested some stuff in Braswell too. Like, if it was me going forward, I would keep YaYa. probably have YaYa as my number 2. I'd probably work Braswell in as my number 3. And I'd go out and get a dog at my number 1 pass rusher, Evan. I mean, and I've seen some people say, hey, the Bucs aren't going to go out and get a number 1 pass rusher. Well, they certainly freaking should. I mean, they need that, because when was this defense having success, Evan? It's whenever Shaq Barrett was playing freaking God tier, right, with 19 and a half sacks. It's whenever Jason Pierre-Paul was in that mix as well, doing some crazy work. Like, if you have a good pass rush, things are a lot better for your defense as a whole, right? In the past couple of seasons now, things have not been good for these outside linebackers, okay? And it's time for a change. It's time to kind of say, hey, we've swung and missed on a couple of these guys. And it's in the case of JTS, or it's just time for some changes in the case of Anthony Nelson, right? Just to get some fresh faces in here. Let's go out and get a Trey Hendrickson. If you don't want to trade for someone, go out and get a Josh Sweat, or go out and get Hassan Reck, or whatever you want to go out and get, right? Bring in a proven top tier-esque pass rusher and build off of that, right? Because right now, their formula of, hey, we signed Shaq Barrett to a prove-it deal back in 2019, and he got us 19 and a half sacks, so we can continue to kind of scrape that barrel and see gold come up. It's not working, and it's time to give up on that theory, right, and start bringing in some more proven entities to show actual growth.
Yeah, I mean, wise words spoken by Mr. James Hill. I agree. And the thing that gets me, the Buccaneers themselves admitted that they did not have enough pass rush help. They admitted it last offseason because they signed Randy Gregory. They signed a pass rusher, released him, which obviously is not their fault. The dude didn't show up, and then he did nothing to replace him. They didn't sign anybody else. I'm not saying you had to go out and trade for somebody or make a panic move, but there was other dudes that were available when you released Randy Gregory.
I mean,
Yannick Ngakoue. Yeah, exactly.
Dog. They needed someone, Evan. They needed someone.
They admitted they did, and then they didn't. They did get someone, right? And I liked the Randy Gregory signing at the time, right? I think I spoke about that. I spoke highly of it. That I liked the signing because I felt that they need a veteran in that room. But hey, it didn't work out, and they just did nothing to replace him. So, look, Shaq Barrett, great human being, great Buccaneer. It's time to move on, I think. And I think you speak on that because, look, Shaq Barrett, JTS, and Anthony Nelson are all free agents. So there is a pretty easy way out for the Buccaneers that if they don't want to keep these guys, they don't really have to.
If you could hold on to Shaq as like your 4th or your 5th pass rusher just to be a locker room guy, whatever, right? But we can't see another situation where the Bucs come out of this offseason and go, well, what do you mean? We have a veteran pass rusher. We have Shaq Barrett. Like, we can't keep seeing this organization holding on to potential, right? Well, maybe Shaq can go back and roll back the clock a few years.
If YaYa bounces back and Braswell takes another step forward, then it's okay. Like,
big if. Like, we've been talking about ifs with this pass rush for the past, 3 years. It hasn't been working. Mm-hmm. We need to stop focusing on ifs and start focusing on guarantees, right? And if you can go out and get a guy that can very likely get you 8-9 sacks and be a consistent presence, you go and get that guy. Because, you've talked about it. This defense is a solid number 1 pass rusher from going back to being pretty decent, right?
Yeah. I think it helps a lot of different things.
Yeah, they need this, right? Far and away should be the number 1 priority this offseason. Far and away. I would even might be crazy enough to double down and say, you know what? Yeah, we are going to go sign a Josh Sweat in free agency. Then we might go draft a James Pierce Jr. in the 1st round. I don't know. I'm feeling kind of froggy,
if the opportunity presents itself, they maybe should. There's a lot of, like I said, Trey Henderson, Myles Garrett. I know, I think it's very unlikely. I don't want to speak for James, but I'm pretty sure he does as well.
Yeah,
but he did do a trade request, right? So it's out there, right? So it's not 0. I'll say that. But then like you mentioned, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, Khalil Mack, like regardless of what you may think of these players, they're out there, right? And they are available. And I think it would be a huge mistake if the Buccaneers just sat there and said, yeah, well, let's bring back Nelson and we'll bring back Barrett. We'll let JTS go. We'll keep we'll have Diaby and Braswell as our two guys. We might draft one in the third or fourth round, and then we'll see how it goes. No, I can't. Honestly, I don't even have much interest in like a Shaq Barrett type signing in free agency. Like, oh, this guy got like 4 sacks in his last stop, and he didn't really play much. So we're going to sign him to a 1-year, $5 million deal and see if we can hit gold. No. Like, I think they need a proven guy, because honestly, when they've gone out and gotten that, it's worked most of the time. Like, I understand there are some busts, right? But like Jason Pierre-Paul, that move was a risk and it worked. It helped your pass rush. So I do think there is a big opportunity for the Buccaneers this offseason. And I think Jason Light knows that. I think he knows that they need to improve rushing the passer. He's not oblivious to that, but I do think it is a little bit concerning, though, that like, what if they don't, right? Like, what if things, and maybe they try, right, and things just don't fall into place. But like, I would even be a little bit nervous if they were like, oh, we're not really going to sign anybody in free agency. We're just going to draft somebody in the first round.
I'd be nervous about that.
That hasn't really worked for you in the past anyway. Like, yeah, that first rounder may be good, but like, is it going to be an immediate impact guy? I don't know that. So that would make me a little nervous as well.
I'm always going to support them drafting, because you
Absolutely.
never, I mean, as you always say, like, it is a thing you've said a lot, is you're never going to hit the ball if you don't swing the bat. Right. But like, they need it. You know what would really help YaYa Diaby put it all together and Braswell develop is if you actually got them some help. You know?
If you had like, Trey Hendrickson on the other side and they can just, everybody's focused on Hendrickson and have Diaby have favorable matchups. Yeah, like that might help.
Yeah, like that's going to help those guys as well. Like putting them out there like on an island on their own and just saying, all right, just start developing. That's not very helpful. I will say, like, it is good that George Edwards isn't the outside linebackers coach anymore, and Larry Foote's back in that role. All joking aside, because Larry Foote did do very good in that role, but like they need a dog, Evan. They need a number one guy. You're going to be pounding the table for this until it happens or until it doesn't happen, and then we'll be pounding the table saying they should have gotten a number one guy. Yeah,
and it just feels like, couple months go by and it's going to be week 9, week 10, and we're going to be sitting here saying, yeah, we told you so. It feels like a thing where it's going to be like, yeah, their pass rush isn't that great, and we're going to be like, yeah. So we'll see what happens. There's a lot of options. Obviously, let us know which option is your favorite. I know there's a lot of names being thrown out there right now, but we're curious to hear your thoughts. We're curious to hear your thoughts on the performance of the outside linebackers this past season. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the futures of JTS, Anthony Nelson, Shaq Barrett? What do you guys think the Buccaneers should do, whether it be free agency, trade for somebody in the draft? There's all three avenues seem to be quite available for the Buccaneers this offseason. So we will see what ends up happening. But thank you to James for joining me in this video. Thank you all for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And go Bucs.